You're actively creating content on your TopCyberDawg channel.
Yeah.
What motivated you to start teaching others, and how has that impacted your growth?
Yeah. So I came up with the idea. I knew when I started doing my training work, one thing the advice I was given from somebody on YouTube was start branding yourself as that professional. Position yourself in being in that role that you want to be in. So for me, I knew, hey, I need to start branding myself. I need to put myself out there. It's uncomfortable, but the positives outweigh the negative. And for me, I didn't want to just use my given name, Tijan. It's hard to pronounce for some people. And you don't see it all the time. So I was like, what kind of moniker could I create that would be easy to remember and, help with my branding of myself? So that's where I came up with TopCyberDawg. At the current university I work at, our mascot is a husky. So I like to throw in that dog, but a DAWG, not a DOG. But for me, it was way to brand myself and also document my journey. The way that I got into IT as a whole isn't typical. I didn't know anybody in the industry that gave me my internship. I was through a program. So the way that I've gotten here so far hasn't been typical. And for me, I thought it'd be helpful to document my journey to, not only look back on how far I've come, but also to document it for others. Not saying you have to follow it to a T, but you might get some idea on how you could switch up your program to aid you into getting that role that you want. And of course, I like documenting my wins as well as my losses.
Hello, and welcome to the Cyber Weekly. The Cyber Weekly is a podcast which talks about cybersecurity. With me, Deogratius Okelo, and today we have an interesting guest. His name is Tijan Hydara. He's a self-built cybersecurity professional whose path into cybersecurity runs straight through the School of Hard Work, starting with IT support roles at Alaska Airlines, a staff firm, and the University of Washington. He stacked foundational experience before pivoting into defense. Today, he holds a stack of CompTIA certifications, plus Network Plus, Security Plus, CySA Plus, the Blue Team Level 1, and has built hands-on SOAR and threat detection home labs using Splunk and Elastic. As a creator behind the TopCyberDawg YouTube channel, now past 1,000 subscribers, Tijan is actively lowering the barrier to entry for the next generation of SOC analysts. Welcome, Tijan, to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. With great introduction. So I really do appreciate everybody's time today and looking forward to being here.
That's interesting. Now, for those who don't know you, I've done a profile, but what's underneath the profile that most people don't know about you?
Yeah. So if you look at everything I've been involved with on LinkedIn, YouTube, a lot of times people think I actually currently hold a cybersecurity role, and that's further from the truth. At the University of Washington, I do work more of a help desk style position, but that doesn't mean I'm not involved in security initiatives and security events that might happen on site. But again, that's just for me to build my brand. And, I think that's a testament to the success I've had with that so far, positioning myself as a cybersecurity professional with the things I do at work or at home in my lab environment. So most people don't know that I currently don't hold a cyber role yet, but we're working towards it. And I think that's one thing to always point out is, you can be involved in the field without holding that position, but also be working towards it.
At the end of the day, what do you actually think people will pick out of this conversation and will resonate with everyone, basing on the theme of the show? And you've gone through the questions which we're going to have. What do you think people will pick from this conversation with us?
I think what people who view this podcast will gain from it is how to stay resilient, being consistent, and planning out some kind of plan of attack on how you can pivot yourself in the cybersecurity field.
So you've went from supporting 30,000 Alaska Airlines employees in IT to building a SOAR playbook in your home lab. What was that moment you realized cybersecurity, specifically the defensive side, was where you wanted to be?
I always knew, so I got my start in IT. I was a part of a program called Year Up back in 2017, and it's only based in the United States, but their goal is to teach their students skills based on the area that they live in. I live here in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area. So what's big up here is tech. So I was fortunate enough to live in a city where tech was prevalent. So I gained that experience as far as earning an internship with Alaska Airlines and being thrown into the fire of working in their environment on a day-to-day basis and seeing what that looks like. And for me, I knew I didn't want to work the break fix style tickets or help desk style positions forever. Being able to work in tandem with other departments, I got firsthand insight on how security works. And through my progression, leaving Alaska Airlines, going to Microsoft, and then now the University of Washington, I've got to rub shoulders with security personnel in those companies and figured out, hey, this is, I think, my next lane that I want to pivot into. And it was just more so about getting that understanding of the different positions that are in cybersecurity and what I want to dip my toes in, so to speak. And for me, that's where I came up with, security engineer, SOC analyst, those style positions that I wanted to gear myself towards.
For someone who has never heard the term SOC analyst before, how would you describe what you actually do day to day without the jargon?
So when you ask that, is it more so for my current role
General.
at University of Washington, or for instance, doing like SOC
No,
analyst work?
basically the SOC analyst work.
Gotcha.
What is actually the SOC analyst, and how do you best describe it for someone who actually doesn't know what the SOC analyst is?
All right. So at a high level, think of a SOC analyst. And for those who don't know what a SOC is, we're not talking about the socks on your feet. We're talking about a COC, Security Operations Center. And you would think of an analyst for the SOC as a digital security guard for the company. You're essentially that first line of protection for the organization. So in a SIM environment, whether that be Splunk Enterprise, what have you, you would be deep in that environment, sifting through the different alerts that fire off. And we might have a detection engineer team that creates rules. So they're in charge of manning that. And then we're in charge of responding and escalating if need be, if we find something that's truly malicious in the environment.
You've earned multiple certifications. Well done on that, by the way. There's a A plus, Network plus, Security plus, CYSA plus, Blue Team Level 1, and multiple Let's Defend paths. How did you decide the order, and do you think certifications are the right starting point for people trying to break in?
You can ask 1,000 people and you might get 1,000 different answers on
That's
that
very
question.
true, by the way.
But for me, in my experience, first thing when you're looking at roles in your area, when you're looking at those job descriptions, see what they're asking for, because a lot of times that's going to be the entry to barrier to get you past HR, where you get HR to check it off and saying, hey, we can push this forward to management. And when I was looking into certifications, CompTIA is, of course, one of the big ones. So as I progressed through, starting out at Alaska Airlines, I started off at the very beginning, ground level 1. A plus, which is basically just getting an understanding of the basics of computers, internals, moving on up to network. And then I definitely found out, security is something I wanted to be involved with. So I geared towards security plus, and then building on top of that, going for the CySA plus as well. But for those of you who don't know, CompTIA is just theoretical. You're not going to be hands-on in some kind of lab environment doing a certification training and testing. In my experience, when I was getting roadblocks as far as my progression with applying and interviewing, I needed more hands-on experience. Deep into YouTube, online, LinkedIn, seeing what are other professionals doing that I'm not doing that could help me. And that's when I ran across Security Blue Team Level 1, BTL1. I want to give a shout out to Dave Johnson. He's a cybersecurity professional on YouTube. And I got the idea to gear myself towards the BTL1 through his channel, seeing that the certification involves Splunk Enterprise, PowerShell training, how to investigate emails, and really find malicious things as if I was a SOC analyst. I knew that was going to be my next certification I was going to go after. And it was a great experience, and an experience where I failed plenty of times. I failed 2 times, I believe, maybe 3 times before I actually passed. Spent a lot of money, but I had no problem investing in my learning and in my progression. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was a great certification that I will always continue to advocate for, especially if you want to be a SOC analyst and want to figure out what a SOC analyst does on a day-to-day basis and actually want to get hands-on. That's a great certification to gear yourself towards. So really just trying to figure out what positions I'm interested in and what they're asking for.
Most of the programs are just purely theoretical.
Yeah.
But if you look at the Blue Team Level 1 and all that, I was about to ask the pose the question of the idea of spending money. Someone might say that I want it cheaply or
Yeah,
coupons.
and you don't want to be a cert chaser. That's one thing I don't want to be. So at this point now, any certifications that I'm going towards either has to be a requirement of the company that I'm working for, or it's with a tool that I'm really invested in using. For instance, like Splunk Enterprise. Right now, I'm gearing back up towards jumping in back and getting certified with that. I've been in it for feels like a year plus now as far as the lab environments that I've stood up. But getting some kind of certification to cement that and also help with my resume is definitely on my to-do list. So definitely only gear yourself towards certifications that are going to move you forward as far as your job applications. You don't have to catch them all like Pokemon. You just want to be able to get the certifications that are going to aid you into being more, what's the right word I'm looking for?
Marketable.
Thank you. Marketable when you come across those hiring managers' desks.
You've talked of Splunk, which you've heavily put in your lab. So you
Yeah.
heavily played with Splunk and Elasticsearch. Can you walk us through what actually happens when the alert fires in a SOC, and what does the triage look like from the moment you see it to the moment you close it?
Yeah. That's one thing I've been doing as my training has been coming along is diving into different alerts and how I can triage those. So definitely when alert fires off, comes into our sim, we need to get context. Right off the gate, there should already be some kind of evidence as far as time, who's involved, as far as the endpoints, the name of those endpoints, the user who was signed into that endpoint, of course, what happened as far as why that alert fired off. Did we see a PowerShell command that looked suspicious to our systems? Did we get a large batch of failed login attempts from this user? We want to get context first. And then after that, we can start validating that to see, is it normal? This user that had a lot of failed login attempts, what time did this happen at? The location, where did this happen at? Did this come from out of the country, North Korea, for instance? We don't know. So we want to get context and validate, is this normal behavior in our environment? That way, so we can definitely create better context if we need to escalate this up to a higher tier. Also, it helps with us making those informed decisions. So we definitely want to gather context, see if this is a false positive or something truly malicious, and then take action, whether that's isolating the machine in our network, blocking activity, and of course, documenting this, because usually you're working in a team. You're not the only one that's going to have eyes on this alert and investigation. So documenting everything that you come across and what you think is happening in this current investigation. So if you do need to move it up the chain, all eyes have, full knowledge of what has been seen and how they can assist as far as the escalation.
Yeah, I like that system. As you can see, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I got to write things down.
So, you've completed a detection engineering learning path and built Atomic Red Lab. You will tell us more about it to simulate real attacks. Can you explain the general audience detection engineering, what it means and why it matters? And you'll also talk about Atomic Red Team Lab for those who
Yes.
actually want to set up theirs.
Yeah. So Atomic Red Team, for one, is a great tool that I was exposed to by my colleague at work, Jesse Moore. He's a cybersecurity advisor at the university, and he really has been a great mentor to me as far as giving me tips on different labs I can spin up at home for very little cost in my but to answer your first question, detection engineering at a high level, think of it as what decides whether an attacker gets caught or gets through the weeds. Detection engineers are going to be writing rules that in our sim, for instance, would get fired off if it meets the threshold. So, for instance, if we see a failed login attempt in our environment, the detection engineer would be creating alerts that would catch that. So it might have something in the logic of event ID 4625, and that's the event ID for a failed login attempt. So a detection engineer would make some kind of logical rule where if we see that event ID come up X amount of times, it's going to fire off alerts in our environment. And then the SOC analyst would be in charge of verifying that if it does come across in our SIM environment, and then acting upon it to confirm whether it's something that's true or false. So at a high level, that's what detection engineering is. And for those that want to get involved with detection engineering, you can utilize Atomic Red Team, which I believe is created by Red Canary. And essentially what that is a way to simulate live attacks in your environment that then you could create detection rules for in your SIM environment, Splunk Enterprise, for instance. So you would set up red team on a virtual machine. That virtual machine would be connected to your SIM environment because we want to test. And then Atomic Red Team has a whole library of different attacks that are linked to the MITRE framework. And then you can run those attacks on your virtual machine and see what that looks like in your logs as it's connected to your Splunk Enterprise environment. And then when you see it come across in your logs, you're saying, hey, I can write detections based off of what we see in our logs. So at a high level, Atomic Red Team is going to help you simulate real attacks, hundreds of them, where you can then test it out in your SIM environment and see, did it catch this? What happens when we fire off this type of attack? Whether that be defacement of an endpoint. So when you log into it, a message might be splashed across that doesn't really come from your corporation. You're able to simulate those attacks, write detections, and defend at a higher level. But I definitely recommend Atomic Red Team because again, it's free and it's real attacks that you can run on a virtual machine. And again, you never want to run these on your actual host machine, always on some kind of virtual machine because you're doing some real damage.
Yeah, that's true. So it works more like a simulation environment, which you connect
Correct.
to your SIM. Which that SIM, I'm trying to picture the network diagram for it. So it's
it'd be a forwarder. So on your VM, it'd be a universal forwarder. You can use a heavy forwarder, but you can use a universal forwarder from Splunk. It'd be installed on your virtual machine that has Atomic Red Team installed as well. And then all the metrics as far as that VM would be sent up to your Splunk Enterprise instance.
So you need only 2 virtual machines running.
So for the virtual machine, that's one. But for instance, your Splunk Enterprise instance, that could be on a server that's hosted via Amazon Lightsail, for instance. In my case, that's what I have it on. So Splunk Enterprise is on a server, and then Atomic Red Team is a VM that has a Splunk forwarder as well. So you can technically just use one virtual machine.
Okay. So you use one virtual machine on your computer, and then you use Splunk forwarder, which will send the
telemetry to your enterprise instance.
Yeah, yes.
And then for the just to bring up for cost wise, for instance, my Amazon server that is hosting my Splunk Enterprise instance costs about $14 a month. So there is some cost involved with the Splunk Enterprise testing, but again, it's very worth it as far as the experience that you get standing that up and managing that server.
What about for Splunk? Because also Splunk has a cost. Unless you're using the 30-day thing. I think it's 30 days. Yeah.
I have a developer license, so I'm able to get gaps where I have access to it. So there's definitely workarounds to lowering that cost that you might have to come out of pocket with. But I just want to be clear about what I'm paying out of pocket for certain things.
Okay. I'm a SOC analyst, cybersecurity analyst. And my biggest fear is usually the tool failing to detect that an incident is actually happening.
Yeah.
That is like my worst nightmare, and it happens in the middle of the night, and I am not there. So, according to you, what would be like your worst nightmare as a feature SOC? What's one of those things which
I'm the same.
scare you to death?
The same with that, but also having too much noise in the environment. You always hear about burnout, especially with SOC analysts, the different alerts that you come across. And if you don't have a lot of automation in your environment, that's a lot of eyes and hours, minutes that can be spent on certain alerts. And you want to be efficient with your time, especially when it's a company's data, and data is, a currency.
Yeah.
So with me, it's making sure that whatever's being presented in front of me as far as alerts, it's not a lot of noise. But again, that's when you work in tandem with detection engineers and you can make your recommendations as far as, hey, this in our environment really isn't working. It's noisy. And that's when there's a larger conversation on how we can remediate that.
Yeah. I took up a course of recently, certified SOC analyst from AC Council. It has both the practical and also the theoretical part. But one of the guys who was those hands-on, the video trainings, he said that most of the times as a SOC analyst, one of the things is you will receive so many alerts, but the best thing you can do is prioritize and be like the heavy duty ones, those key ones, which you find are highly rated, are the ones you should focus on first. Then the rest, just pray to God that
Yeah.
nothing goes wrong because because sometimes
Yeah.
it's a lot, and no people don't understand how much that weight on your shoulder can be like
It's a
sometimes.
lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. You're actively creating content on your TopCyberDawg channel.
Yeah.
What motivated you to start teaching others, and how has that impacted your growth?
Yeah. So I came up with the idea. I knew when I started doing my training work, the advice I was given from somebody on YouTube was start branding yourself as that professional. Position yourself in being in that role that you want to be in. So for me, I knew, hey, I need to start branding myself. I need to put myself out there. It's uncomfortable, but the positives outweigh the negative. And for me, I didn't want to just use my given name, Tijan. It's hard to pronounce for some people. And you don't see it all the time. So I was like, what kind of moniker could I create that would be easy to remember and, help with my branding of myself? So that's where I came up with TopCyberDawg. At the current university I work at, our mascot is a husky. So I like to throw in that dog, but a DAWG, not a DOG. But for me, it was way to brand myself and also document my journey. The way that I got into IT as a whole isn't typical. I didn't know anybody in the industry that gave me my internship. I was through a program. So the way that I've gotten here so far hasn't been typical. And for me, I thought it'd be helpful to document my journey to, not only look back on how far I've come, but also to document it for others. Not saying you have to follow it to a T, but you might get some idea on how you could switch up your program to aid you into getting that role that you want. And of course, I like documenting my wins as well as my losses. Anytime I fail a certification or, I haven't gotten the role that I've been looking for, it's all about sharing the journey. A lot of times when I talk to different professionals that are trying to get into the field, they expect all this to happen overnight as far as, you applying, getting a job after you just gotten your first certification. And that's not always the case. Does it happen? Yes, but it doesn't always happen. And I'm living proof of that. I've interviewed for various different roles. I've gotten offers, but due to circumstances, I've, haven't been able to take those offers yet, but also documenting that so others see, others are out there going through the same journey that I am is, I think, important. Also for others that look like us too. So for me, I just want to be person that's a subject matter expert or working towards being a subject matter expert in security, and just documenting what I'm learning. Because again, if you're not learning, you're dying in this field, in my professional opinion. So I think it's important for us as security professionals to be documenting what we're working on, not documenting, stuff that's happening in your company, but documenting what you're working on at home and,
Yeah,
being
sure.
active in the environment, not the environment, being active in the community and just sharing. Because that's definitely something that will push you along in the future is being somebody who you can talk to and also share your expertise and connect with like-minded others.
Yeah, I found that is very key and it helps a lot. One of the things I've been fearing, to be honest, on the show would be doing live episodes
Yeah.
because there are a lot of things that can go wrong on live.
Yeah, I commend you for it. Yeah, because this is live happening right now, and anything can happen. So throwing yourself
Yeah,
out
yeah,
there to do think live content is a step above being on YouTube. When I'm on YouTube, I can hit record, hit stop, edit. So doing the
yeah.
live bit is
That
a
that
whole
one
different
that
ball
one
game.
first still scares me, but I need to first find a way of rejuvenating it. Then the other one is doing something you're already doing, which is the sharing of content, of being a subject matter expert. Because there's always that fear, or I feel like I need to build a system around it because I find that I don't want to again get fatigued by having a lot,
Yeah,
especially now with the editing and all that. It's really.
yeah. I got some videos right now I'm working on that I got to edit. I'm a one-man army, so it's a lot. It is
I've been
definitely a
there
lot.
and I don't want to go back there.
So it's a lot, but it motivates me as far as to keep going. I didn't when I had got my first 1,000 subscribers. I don't get paid by YouTube at all. And the fact that 1,000 people wanted to subscribe to my channel, leave comments, it's mind blowing. But also too, it's positive affirmations to keep going, and that there's others just like me that are, trying to do more, trying to do better.
Yeah, I should pick a leaf because definitely I need to start that area. Now I felt like I needed to get someone to help me with that part of the editing because
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, that
it's too
editing beats
much.
up. I've learned so much, but it is a lot. So anytime
Yeah,
somebody
so
has a quality editor, I'm just like, good on you.
what would be the practical first 3 steps?
Ooh, first 3 steps, I would say find out what you want to do, whether that be a SOC analyst, detection engineer, threat intelligence. Find out the lane that you want to go into. There's so much happening in cybersecurity. Pick a lane, and work towards that specifically. Also, I would say next is connect with others that are doing that type of work that you want to do. Um, it just helps as far as you getting a better sense on what you might need to be studying towards, the labs you might need to be trying to build up, or some type of training you might need to equip yourself with. For me, that was Ellington Cyber Academy. I knew I needed to get hands-on work in a sim environment. So I was doing my research on how I can get more training in that. The BTL one wasn't enough for me. I still struggled with learning the SBO query language and that whole facet on how to stand up an environment and move around comfortably. So I had to get more help with it. And then I would say third is staying consistent. You have to be consistent in this field, whether that be with studying, the labs you're doing, networking. You have to be consistent just because, again, there's so much competition out there. You want to be some kind of pillar in the community that whether people are going to you for questions and you have that visibility in the space. So I would say consistency is really number one, but it goes hand in hand as far as getting you to that next level. Yeah.
So tell me how you're able to fit in your labs if someone is to set up a system around it. What does
Yeah.
that look like?
Yeah. Uh, for me, I'm still pivoting with that change now. Being a new father, um, it's bigger than me now. Prior to having my daughter, it was, you know, I could stay up in the wee hours of the night, right after working my 9 to 5 and stay in the labs and get going. But now it's, I have to maneuver a little bit differently now with her being here and needing me. So for me, it's still having that understanding. I have goals that I want to reach in my career, and that's my purpose. Alongside being a father, my purpose is being in this career, being in this space. And whatever the cost is, whatever the time is, I'm gonna get done what needs to be done to meet those goals. So if you just have that understanding, this is what you want to do, you're gonna make the time for it. Now that doesn't mean you're gonna have 3 hours every night to work in a lab environment, write detection rules, go through various different courses on Udemy, but you want to be, like I like to say, labbing every day. I did not make up that phrase, but Dwan Lightfoot, he's another YouTuber who I got that phrase from. He was labbing every day. That was the moniker I wanted to internalize for myself. And others can too. Lab every day. Doesn't mean you have to lab every day for 3 hours, but 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there. You just want to get 1% better every day. And that's going to compound as far as your knowledge gaps being filled and you getting better. It's better than just doing nothing. But if you want to be in this field, you want to do a certain style position, you got to put in the work. So whether that be a couple minutes here and there, you can budget it out. And again, if it's something where you just can't do it, maybe it's time to take inventory as far as what can you do. But there's always something that us as professionals can be doing outside of our 9 to 5 to get better. A key example, when I'm driving into work, especially when I was training for certifications, I'm listening to certification videos in traffic on my commute. There's ways that you can get around those blocks as far as trying to get better. It's just about adjusting and building consistency in doing that.
Yeah, that is very true. Finally, looking ahead, what are areas in cybersecurity that excite you the most and what should beginners start paying attention to right now?
I really enjoy the automation aspect of things. Being a part of the ECA program, I was able to stand up my own Splunk enterprise environment for my SIM, but I also got to stand up my own Splunk SOAR environment. And that was its own beast within itself. As far as standing that up, it's hosted via Red Hat Linux. So I have a Red Hat Linux server that has Splunk SOAR installed on it, and that's a VM. and then I'm able to access my Splunk SOAR environment. And then in that environment, I can create detection rules at the snap of a finger. And the way that it's displayed and the immediate response you get, especially when you have API keys integrated into your environment, things can happen like that. So you can speed up an investigation by minutes by just integrating different tools, whether that be Virus Total, Hybrid Analysis, MaxMine. You can integrate APIs from all those tools into your SOAR environment. And then say, for instance, you get a malicious IP or some kind of file hash that gets alerted on, you can run those tools against those IOCs immediately and get actionable info that can help further your investigation like that. So I do like the aspect of, I can speed up my workflow easily by integrating something like that in the environment. And I can just be a much more efficient analyst and make informed decisions much quicker for my organization.
Yeah, that is easy when it comes to incidents which are already known. Now, what about the 0 days?
The 0 days, that's still something that I'm working up myself. I'm curious what you have to say about that, because honestly, I haven't had too much experience with the 0 day attack in my lab environments that I've done. So I honestly don't know. So I'm curious, Dio, if you have an opinion on that.
I've not actually had one, but you then basically based on the behavior of that particular thing, if it's maybe an IP or if it's maybe a software,
Hmm.
you now based on other behaviors. Is it maybe a signed application or not signed? That could be a good indicator. What
Yeah.
type of files is it trying to contact? That's also another one which will be like, this looks suspicious. So that's, you dig into other things apart from it being known.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
for me
start
too,
looking at other behaviors.
just hearing that too, if I was going through that type of attack, I'd be documenting everything that I was
Mm.
seeing, IPs that, something was trying to connect to, documenting it all, screenshots. Because again, if I don't see something in my environment every day, it's something new to me. Most likely, it's not documented in your SOC environment. So documentation is going to be critical as far as moving forward, and then also coming together as a team and doing some kind of table talk regarding how can we prevent this moving forward? What kind of detections can we create that will prevent this happening again and then crippling certain systems in our environment?
Yeah, that's interesting. Definitely, it's something which is more of a food for thought kind of situation where you're just praying it doesn't go wrong
Yeah.
sometimes.
But also too, when some of these 0 day attacks, it might be a 0 day in your environment, but another company might have went through that type of attack and have done the hard work as far as remediating it and documenting it and talking about it online. So there might be other organizations that have went through the same type of attack and already have done the hard work of remediating it. So you can read up about certain attacks online and possibly aid your team in recovering much faster if it does come across your network.
Yeah, that's usually along the lines of CTIs. That's
Yes,
where
correct.
CTI comes in, because definitely if someone has done it before, that's where you can get the information from.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming on the show. We've definitely picked a lot, and it's good to know the grind is still ongoing, because it's not a tricky. It's a very
Yeah.
tricky one. And but one thing I've noticed is many people who start from IT support really do well in terms of cybersecurity, especially the analyst work and maybe even red teaming, because they already understand the networks. They already understand
Hmm.
how people operate, understand what goes on in an organization,
Yeah.
which eases their work. So well done. Keep up the good
Thank
work.
you.
I'm definitely also planning on reaching 1,000 subscribers. The hustle is real.
It is. It's a grind, but congratulations on that.
Yeah, I'm almost reaching there by a long shot, but I'm praying all will go well.
It
Yeah,
will.
so now for those who want to find you, what are your parting shots? Where can people find you?
Yeah. So people can find me, of course, TopCyberDawg, TOP, Cyber Dog as in DAWG. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter, but not too much posting as far as my Twitter feed. And then also I have a technical blog on Medium, Top Cyber Dog. You can find me there. See the different lab environments I've worked on in the past, currently working on, different SOC alerts I've worked on, in the past from platforms like Let's Defend, Try Hack Me, the whole facet. I just want to be somebody who's documenting the journey, actually doing the work, and just being available to anybody else that might have questions. This grind, this field, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you're always going to be putting in work, always going to be learning, always going to be reading up on new attacks out there. So just always have that perseverance in mind, stay consistent, and you'll get to where you want to be. It's just being visible and being consistent, and not giving up. With me, I've had 1,000 no's told to my face, whether it be in person, email, but all you need is that one yes. And I've gotten that yes before that unfortunately I couldn't take. But again, it's just more confirmation that I'm doing what I need to do, and I'll get there. It's just more about continuing to put in the work. So don't give up, stay consistent, ask questions, look for mentorship, and you'll get to where you want to be. I promise.
Thank you for that. Thank you for coming on the show. I've picked a lot, and definitely there's a lot of food for me to think about. And
Yeah.
we'll include the YouTube channel in the show notes for
Thank you.
those who want to come on the on and listen to you and also watch the videos. And yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you, dude.
Eventually, it will pay off.
It will. And again, I appreciate you for reaching out and asking me to come on the podcast. It was a great time, great discussion, and I really do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.